Hello everybody, I'm a practicing therapist and a doctoral student of psychology. Today we're going to talk about what to do when an avoidant cannot express their feelings. And I think this topic is very important because a lot of avoidant individuals do struggle with expressing their feelings in general. And I think some of these points will help your partner to open up, as well as if you are an avoidant individual, you can recognize if these things are showing up in your relationship, you can bring it up that this is probably some of the reasons why you're struggling to express or you're not really sure what is to be said due to some of these triggers, and maybe this will help, okay? The very first one in general, if you are the partner of an avoidant individual, is to avoid pressure. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't talk about it or you can't explore other opportunities of how to express or even mention this is something that you would appreciate that would be adjusted in the long run, right? But pressure just means you don't want to make them feel like they're being controlled or disrespected by repeating something and saying, but what else do you feel? Or what else is going on? Or how come you're not opening up to me? Or you never open up. I feel so closed off and, disrespected. I feel so lonely. And just repeating those things over and over. You could mention, how has your day been? And they could mention, yeah, it's been good. And you could mention, I'd like some details, what were the stops that you made for your job, or like what were the details that you dealt with today? They could mention a little bit. And if they say, I don't really like to open up, it's not really my thing, you could say, okay, I appreciate that. I just like that. It makes me feel closer. And so you don't have to necessarily put it on them mentioning that they're flawed, they can't express themselves. You could mention this is something you appreciate, something you like, something that makes you feel closer to your partner, right? That's very important, okay? The next one is kind of encourage creative expression, okay? You can use alternative expressions. A lot of avoidant individuals can be very expressive through music, making music, or listening to music. I have one patient, and I have a lot of patients like this, very stoic, very detached, like 1 or 2 word sentences. Like I have to continuously prompt this patient. And by the way, I've been working with them for years, so they're trying, but it really is very much I don't know, or yes, that sounds good. Okay, I'll do that. I'll think about it. Very simple, right? And he has trauma, so nothing bad. But sometimes he shows me the music that he listens to, and it's like heavy metal with so much emotion, so much expression, so much pain. I'm all alone type thing, or I have to climb this mountain all by myself and no one's here for me. And if I fall, I gotta climb again. So emotional. And sometimes it's in the middle, there's also screaming and there's emotion. The scream is intense. And you can tell this individual, he puts his emotions through the music he's listening to. So it's not that he's playing music, but he listens to that type of music. And, a lot of avoidant individuals, this is so common. I don't know what it is, but I'm not sure if y'all have ever seen Peaky Blinders. I actually used to like it. I don't have Netflix anymore, but the main character, I remember and I used to be avoidant as well. I used to really relate with Tommy, the main character, and a lot of avoidant individuals actually love that show. So many of them. And they relate to Tommy because he's a very detached person. And you can see that when no one's watching, there are scenes where he's alone. And he's showing his emotions to nobody. That's when he really, and he's not a perfect example. Tommy is not, I would not really consider, he might be, but he's got a lot of his own issues. So please don't think that I'm saying Tommy's dismissive avoidant. No, I'm saying that there are scenes that avoidant individuals can relate to about that character, that he shows his emotions where no one is looking, that he feels powerful when he doesn't have emotions. People fear him and people respect him because he's unemotional, because he knows what he's doing. That's how avoidants believe they should be, right? And so sometimes you can know who they are and how they express their emotions by the shows that they're watching, right? The art that they're doing. Some avoidants, anybody can do art, and you can see the artwork they do. Movies, in terms of the types of movies they watch. that can be. And that can resonate more than verbal communication, okay? The next one is side-by-side communication. Sometimes avoidant individuals, they're easier to open up if they're doing something side-by-side, not face-to-face. There's some research on this. This was more so gender-specific, the research, but I find it to be it very much applies to avoidance in general, that let's say you're watching TV or you're taking a walk. Taking a walk's a really good one. Playing basketball together. Whatever it is, you're not talking face to face, but you're doing it side by side while doing an activity. Avoidant individuals are much more likely to express themselves. How have you been feeling? What's going on with your work today? How did you feel about, bringing your dog to the vet? How did that make you feel? It's easier to express when you're not focusing on the emotion itself, that your conscious mind or what you're specifically focusing on is more so about the activity that y'all are doing together, okay? The next one is body language, right? Now, this is not something that I'm saying you have to be hyper aware of and you have to do this for your partner and they don't know how to express themselves and that's a handicap they have. No, I'm just saying in general, two individuals, sometimes you can understand how a person is feeling by their body language, okay? You know your partner. A lot of avoidant individuals are not very physically affectionate and they don't always face their partner when they're talking, or they're not making as much eye contact. But your partner, if you're noticing that they're becoming more withdrawn and more uncomfortable and more than usual, you can recognize, okay, there's some tension. You can even mention, hey, did I say something that made you uncomfortable? Just let me know, because it wasn't on purpose. They might be more willing to open up because they hear, okay, I'm being accepted, I'm being appreciated, I'm being understood. That can be very helpful, okay? The next one is identifying feelings in general. So maybe you guys watched a movie that was pretty intense. You're feeling some feelings. You're noticing your partner's having these cues, body language cues, and they're feeling uncomfortable. So you might mention, I kind of noticed that you were withdrawn since we watched that movie. It was a pretty intense movie. I'm not sure if it was intense to you, but it definitely was intense to me. Did something make you uncomfortable? So you're opening up and helping identifying these feelings. You'd mentioned uncomfortable. That's the emotion that you're trying to identify and help them understand. Something that they will probably appreciate at some point, whether they recognize it or not. You're helping them to recognize what's going on, because sometimes avoidant individuals, they're very much in their own world, in their own head, because they've been independent for so long. They cannot necessarily they can't see what they're perceived like, and so they probably didn't realize they're showing how uncomfortable they really are, okay? The next one is express what you think is going on in a confident but non-judgmental way. The confident doesn't mean loud and pushing and forceful. It just means that you don't feel like what you are perceiving is wavering. So you can say, I noticed right before work trips, you're more distracted than you normally are. I feel like you get a little bit anxious before work trips. Is that how you feel? Right? So you mentioned that you feel this way. And now you're asking them their perspective, but you feel pretty confident that is how they feel, right? Maybe they don't realize it. And by the way, avoidant individuals, they do tend to be a little more anxious, more uncomfortable, more rigid before work trips, less affectionate, because they're preparing and preemptively preparing to put on that face and front in front of their colleagues, and they have to focus on the job that they have to do. So that's something common. The next one and the last one is to model emotional expression. Show vulnerability in yourself. When you share your emotions openly, it actually invites a reciprocal response, not all the time, but definitely shows that you appreciate emotional vulnerability in a safe space. You can mention, I had a really long day today. We don't need to necessarily talk about it. I know that you're not much of a talker, but I feel like today, what I notice is every time that we have these long, drawn-out meetings, I actually notice I'm more drained after work. And so today, I definitely want us to do something maybe more romantic or more connection that makes me feel safer. So you were talking just about yourself, but it helped an avoidant individual to recognize, okay, this person copes when they're feeling this way by doing this. Somewhere, especially if they start respecting you and getting close to you, they're going to pick that stuff up too, because that's just how couples are. The closer you get, you start picking up traits and perspectives and narratives from another individual. And so that's a lot of times why a lot of people say, if you're with a secure individual, you'll become more secure. There's some truth to that. You start picking up their expression, their subconscious narratives and reasonings, and their adaptive strategies, reducing your own maladaptive strategies. So by you modeling emotional expression, you actually help them. It doesn't mean that you have to model it all the time and that you're picking up slack for them. No, you're just being yourself, you're expressing yourself, and they'll tag along when they're ready, right? I hope this video was helpful. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.